of Women 2026 virtual parallel event being hosted by the Rural Development Leadership Network. The topic of our panel today is Empowering U.S. Rural Grassroots Women Leaders, Perspectives, Experiences, and Approaches. Before we get into our main panel for this afternoon, I would like to invite Ms. Leticia Carreón, who is our Rural Development Leadership Network leader from New Mexico, to open up with an opening prayer. So over to you, Leticia.
Thank you very much, Pam. We are going to start this CSW meeting in the name of the Father, our Creator, of the Son, our Redeemer, and of the Holy Spirit, our Sanctifier. As we gather here today, we ask for your guidance and wisdom in our presentations, and that we listen to one another with open hearts and minds. Bless our collaboration and lead us to productive solutions for the greater good. We also pray for the peace of mind and heart for each person in this meeting. We pray for those who are ill, and we also pray for those who are hurting because of the loss of a loved one. May we trust in your plans, Lord, and have faith that you are working all things together for good. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Amen. Thank you so much for that beautiful prayer, and thank you for setting the stage for our panel for the rest of this afternoon. So thank you once again for joining us today. My name is Pamela Madzima Tackie, and I am the Chief Executive Officer here at the Rural Development Leadership Network. I have been with the Rural Development Leadership Network since 2025. I joined after the retirement of Starry Kruger, who is our founding president and who many of you know very well. The Rural Development Leadership Network is a national multicultural social change organization that was started in 1983, and our mission is to support community-based development in poor rural areas through hands-on projects, education, leadership development, and networking. We are a national organization, and we have had up to 200 network members that are spread across 26 states in the U.S., Puerto Rico, Mariana Islands, and we've also have community leaders in Belize, and we've had leaders from Vietnam. So we are national multicultural organization, and as I mentioned earlier on, our mission is to support community-based development in poor rural areas. So I will talk a little bit more about RDLN at the end. So if you're able to stay until the end, we would like to share some information about our upcoming institute, the Rural Development Institute, where we are currently recruiting emerging leaders who work in community development to participate in our institute that's coming up from May to June 2026. If you don't think you'll be able to stay until the end, we will drop in the chat a link for a information session that we're having next week, Tuesday, to talk about the Institute itself. And then we also have a link for the application itself to be able to participate in the Institute. So again, the Institute is for emerging rural leaders who are working in community development, who are interested in earning a degree in community development by still working and staying in their communities to do so. So to give you a bit of a background on the Rural Development Leadership Network's participation in CSW, we have been participating in CSW sessions since 1995. In 1995, through, again, the leadership of Starry Kruger, the Rural Development Leadership Network took 40 plus women to attend the NGO forum in China. And our delegation of women were our Appalachian, African American, Latina, Native American, and Garifuna representatives that attended the forum, gave presentations and cultural events, and also attended sessions that were hosted by other women, and was a great exchange. So many of our panelists that are here today actually attended the forum. And at the time, this was funded by the Ford Foundation and the Keller Foundation. This was a life-changing experience for the women that attended, but it also cemented our connection at the Rural Development Leadership Network with our work with women and our work with women empowerment. So since that time, we have been participating in CSW sessions. Most of our sessions have actually been participated in person. However, since the pandemic, we ended up switching to our virtual participation. But next year, we definitely want to be able to participate in person again. So we'll work on continuous fundraising work to be able to do that. So normally when we host these sessions, again, we have taken the initiative to have a rural caucus to ensure that the rural women leaders that we work with are represented and their issues are covered. And then we also try to have sessions to include young women. So this year we have not been able to do that, but we will make sure to try to do that in our upcoming sessions. So today we are installed to receive some really good information from our diverse panel of very experienced rural women leaders that are part of the Rural Development Leadership Network. So all our panelists are members of the Rural Development Leadership Network, are leaders within the Rural Development Leadership Network, and 3 of our panelists are actually our board members. Ms. Shirley Sherrod, who's our vice president, unfortunately cannot be with us due to a death of a very close family member. However, we have Mily Treviño-Sauceda, who's in California, who's our secretary, and Twila Martin Kekahbah from North Dakota, who is our parliamentarian. So again, we're excited to hear from our panel of experienced leaders within the Rural Development Leadership Network. So as you can see on our agenda today, we have divided up our panel into 2 sections. So we will listen to the first panelists, and then we'll pause to have some discussion and Q&A time. And then following that, we'll move on to our second panelist, and then again break for the Q&A. And then at the end, I will close us out and then talk a little bit about our upcoming institute. So at this time, I would like to invite Mily Treviño-Sauceda, who is a leader from California, who's going to talk to us about farm worker women's movement, to join us on the screen. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Mily.
Thank you, Pamela, and thank you, everybody. I'm so happy to again be able to do this panel presentation with my fellow compañeras, because I am we have a long history in terms of collaborating, working together, learning from each other, everything else. So thank you so much. I am Mily Treviño-Sauceda, the executive director of and co-founder of Alianza Nacional de Campesinas, and of course, there's a long history in terms of the kind of work I have been doing throughout. I do come from a migrant farm worker family, and I'll talk about that, in a little bit. Of course, I did the work and experienced so many different things that it got me to becoming an organizer as a teenager, and then from there, many things happened. So if we can go to the next, I can also say here that in 1994, I always say I was 5 years old. No, I'm just kidding. I joined the Rural Development Leadership Network, being part of one of the cohorts I think it was the fourth one. What happened to me was I had never had any high school before, or much less in Mexico, or because my parents are from Mexico. We're 10 children in my family, so some of them were born in the state of Washington, which I was born there, and others were born in Idaho, others in Mexico, and then we ended up in California, all over the place. We were migrants. We were farm workers and migrants. And just to do this, because I know I have very short time, the kind of history that we were able to do together. I will never say I was a founder. I can say I'm a co-founder because I didn't do it myself. We formed this group in here where I live right now in the Coachella Valley. It's called Mujeres Mexicanas. This group in 1988, we did a survey for this group, not necessarily for the group, but for this woman who was related to my family, and she was trying to do her master's, finish her master's, and doing her thesis. And she wanted to, because she also came from a pharmaco family, she wanted us to help her document issues about pharmaco women, the problems and concerns, and what kind of recommendations women had. And because of what came out of there, some of us that were engaged in every aspect of this survey, in terms of interviewing women, being part of it, and understanding and learning more about what was going on at the present with many other pharmaco women, we decided to form this group, Mujeres Mexicanas, and invite women throughout the area and see if women were really interested in being part of this group, to see if this group was interested in doing what the women were saying in the survey. And let me tell you, that thesis got an award from Cal State Long Beach, and Maria Elena Lopez Trevino during that time. She put this together. It's a pharmaco women's or women farmworkers, it's called, a needs assessment, and many researchers have gotten information from there. Why? Because this group came out from there. You know, there was a lot of things that were happening, and what happened is that we formed this group. We did a lot of this group was all pharmaco women, and it was called Mujeres Mexicanas, which means Mexican women. And because we did a lot of things locally, changing the city council to changing the school district, and supporting the best candidate for the assembly, state assembly. And, you know, we started understanding we had a lot of power. So we started understanding that this collective that we had formed would be powerful. So we organized conferences, and then our third conference in 1991, we decided, why don't we organize a national network of pharmaco women, of campesinas, which we call. We made that commitment in 1991. By 1993, we were already organizing women in California, and we had our first convening in 1993. And of course, this convening was pharmaco women led by, in all the sessions that we had, they were led by the women themselves, talking about the issues. What we wanted to learn from each other is, you know, having that dialogue. And from there on, we've done many other, we call them convivencias. And this is convenings of women that want to talk about the issues, the problems, and what are the challenges. Also, what are the actions or activities or things that we're already doing at the same time, what recommendations we could have. And that's how our groups started evolving and learning that it was not about a few people deciding what was going to happen. It was groups of women. And the first one in 1993, we had 100 pharmaco women throughout rural California. first ever in the whole nation, first ever in the state, of course. And that commitment went in terms of forming Líderes Campesinas in 1993, and then that was when we had that first convening. And Líderes Campesinas, which means Farmer Girl Women Leaders, it still exists, of course. It became the pioneer of the National Alliance of Farmer Girl Women, which is Alianza Nacional de Campesinas. It's 18 member organizations. We started with less. We were representing in 11 states. We're right now representing in 20 states. And we've done projects where we have presence in all these states, but we did projects with during the past administration, not this one, but we did connection with farmworkers and we did a lot of mapping and connected with the providers that give assistance to farm workers and when they have challenges and issues or abuse or things like that. So we went to, actually, it was more than 42 states. We ended up going to 45 states. So then what happened, if we follow the next one, and what happened is that part of my experience, as I said, and I'm going to be very short here, is that I do come, as I said, from a migrant farmer family. I as a teenager, I saw and I went through so many different things, working in the fields. Right there, I was already a young adult. I was 21. And at the same time, I had already been a United Farm Workers organizer that was heavy in California during the 70s. And we did a lot of changes, and to the point that we got the first state ever in the United States to have full protections for farm workers. Protections that, because we're not part of the Fair Labor Standards Act, we kept pushing because there was no overtime. There was different kinds of abuses, and no one could, workers didn't have, because there were no protections. How do we go and where do we go? We didn't have all that. So as a woman, I went through so many different things, including harassment in the workplace, being fired for after I got married, I got pregnant, and of course, I got fired because I was pregnant, etc. And then there were times that they didn't want to give us work because we were women, blah, 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 all these different things, no? So with time, that's when we did the survey in 1988, and I was already an organizer, and I had done some work with legal services. They had hired me, and I learned so much throughout the years, and all this time I didn't have any high school whatsoever. I didn't know I was that smart. All these different things were happening to me personally. But as I went through, because I was raised in a very strong Catholic religion. Don't ask me about that right now. But in terms of how I was able to connect with the community is, make sure that you're helping others. No, I did learn a lot of good principles that some religions have. And so anyway, so we can continue because I know my time is getting shorter. When we formed the National Alianza Nacional de Campesinas, that was 20 years later. Why? Because we needed to establish it. We needed to connect to women, with women through the United States, and see which were the groups that were really doing, not just saying and not just providing a service, but engaging people, especially women, and interested in learning to connect in a way where, the power of the collective is important. That meant that we need to understand how to work with each other as women, and also build the collective, build the team, and work from there. We collaborated, the Líderes Campesinas group that was formed, we collaborated with women and men but the majority of women from these different organizations that we ended up inviting in 2011 to form that national alliance. And we also felt that having convenings would help us understand what were the 5 priorities or 4 priorities that we really have. And so our approaches are making sure that based on the 5 priorities, can we go to the next one, please? And our approaches are based on ending violence against women. In order for us to be very effective outside, we needed to make sure we dealt with our own personal issues. There's a lot of things that happen to us as girls, as adolescents, or as young, and then just women, as a human being. If we didn't deal with that first, it was going to be harder for us to be able to understand how were we going to support other women, no, in different ways, no. And then labor and worker rights, especially women rights, is an issue that we got involved heavily in terms of understanding. And throughout the years when we worked with Líderes Campesinas, we understood the importance of training women and hiring them so they could become the following cohorts that could help not only organize but advocate and then represent. And of course, labor and worker rights is another issue, which another of our priority areas. And each one of the we call them initiatives right now, have different topics. Immigration, we know that the United States, especially right now, is not only broken, it's completely has dismantled a good comprehensive immigration reform that we need. And because of that, we get involved in what we call the State of Campesina, which every time a president would do a State of a Union, we also do either a webinar to talk about what is the state of farmers women. In this case, the State of Campesinas. And when we have our convenings, we don't only gather in Washington, D.C., we started in 2013 having these convenings to come out with these 4 different initiatives. And the 4th initiative is the pesticides environmental justice. Why? Because pesticides has not only been affecting farm workers as they work in the fields, but affecting women's reproductive health and their next generations. And what we have created was different ways. We use theater, we use different forms of art to connect in the community so that we don't have to pressure people to say what's going on with them, but we talk about what we present. If it's a vignette, and then we start asking, what is it that, what did you see in the vignette? And the vignette could be, what's going on in the fields, and women performing themselves and doing the same with, doing the same in terms of the next vignettes, because we do like 3 or 4 vignettes, and then we ask people what they saw, and that opens the dialogue, and people start understanding that they're not alone, that there's some kind of support, that they might have rights, or as human beings, etc. No, so the next one, and I think we're kind of like in the last ones. If we can go to the next slide, please. And the final one is, when I say we, even though this is a national organization, all our organizations are a membership base. They're all membership based. That means that Alianza is a membership base also. So our board is composed of the representatives of these organizations. So therefore, and we also have auxiliary members that we instead of calling them madrinas, they're also part of the board, but they're people that have certain specialty being on the board, and they also have a vote, but at the same time, the majority are Farmaco women that are representing these our board and helping us with our policies, helping us building the infrastructure of Alianza. And ever since COVID started, we felt the importance of the food distributions and we, first time ever, we were called essential workers. First time ever. And we started thinking, well, wait a minute, we've been essential workers all along. Why? Because food is needed. It's part of being alive. And we were called essential workers to continue working, but we were not treated as essential workers. All our issues, they got worse, especially how COVID started, and then when the other administration came in, which was the Biden administration, there was a little bit more understanding and openness, and so we pushed for trying to get people to really, from the government, to really understand, if you want workers to continue working here, you need to make sure that the workers are safe, because we were having a lot of workers dying. And so we were able to also support in different ways, many different things with workers. And when I say we, it's Farmaco women themselves. It wasn't just our staff. Actually, we started having staff in 2018, even though we started in 2011. The board worked very much in terms of getting the kind of support that Alianza needed and helping it build the infrastructure. And so every single one of our organizations throughout the 20 states were doing actions. We're also connecting with our, we're trying to advocate a lot and connecting with our legislators and educating them and working with them so they can understand, these are the realities of our communities. And in order for us to continue and being healthy, we need to get the respect that we need. So we did a lot of work. The majority of the time we're training our membership, but they are the ones, the Farmaco women are the ones connecting with others, doing all these, using the theater, using art, using different ways. And art is by, you can have a satchel, and the satchel is a representation of kind of like what we call morales or moralitos, that where you when you're harvesting, you're putting all that fruit in that sack and then taking it, and you might be working by piece rate or by the hour, but that's a representation of the workplace. And it's about what we do is give people material, and they get to design and do messages about what are the issues on pesticides and in what way it's harming our community or harming the person that's doing the design. Some of them even crochet them, and we gather them in each community, and in each community we do a lot of different exhibits. And then while they do the exhibits, either outside the church, outside a supermarket or whatever, after getting all this permissions from the people there, when people come out from church or whatever, we start talking with them about it's different ways we found to connect with the community. And the Proyecto Madre Tierra, the last one that I'd like to share, is a project that was built by the women themselves, saying we already in our backyards have like a family garden, and we do our chiles, our tomatoes, our zucchini, our lettuce, and why don't we build this? And all this started during COVID, because we're a community that live very, very isolated from many places, and more times we don't have transportation to go and get food, or it's too high of a price. And we are the first ones to understand that the kind of food that we're getting many more times is damaged by the pesticides that are being used or whatsoever. So all these different kinds of things that we do is we try to when we say we, again, it's the pharmaco women, the groups, the organizations that belong that make what is Alianza, are very equipped with knowledge and a lot of wiseness about what can be done to have a better community. It's women supporting women on violence against women, women supporting women on other issues related. If anybody needs support, it's not just about helping others, it's engaging them. And then they end up joining and helping others. So I want to stop here because I know I've taken more than the time that I was allotted. So Pamela, thank you so much. And there's a lot. We do have a website, and it's under Alianza Nacional de Campesinas. And if you want to join us there and learn more from us, we're more than welcoming you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mily, for your presentation and sharing the information about your organizations, its programs, and this growing farm worker women's movement. So we're going to hold your questions until we hear from Ms. Shirley. So let me go ahead and pull her slides up. All right, so now we're going to hear from Ms. Shirley Williams McClain, and she's going to give us a narrative on her life growing up from a sharecropping family and talk to us about women's resiliency. So, Ms. Shirley, if you can hear me.
Yes,
please.
I can. Thank you very much, Pamela. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you for choosing this session on rural women. CSW and RDLN are giving me another opportunity to share my thoughts about rural life and work that I have done with rural women. First, I was born in 1945 in a small rural town of Holly Springs, North Carolina. My parents were poor, limited educated sharecroppers. I was the fourth of 9 children. We were smart children who worked hard alongside our parents. The sharecropping system was a place where poor families didn't stand a chance of ever getting out of debt because of greedy and corrupt landlord. But we survived. We all survived the shanty houses without indoor or outdoor toilets. We survived the unforgiving sun when we worked in the fields. We survived the times without food. We survived when our mother fought back to protect our dog Jack. And we survived staying out of school to work in the fields. We left those sharecropping farms and ended up being mostly teachers and manufacturing technicians. Our lives took different directions. Early on, I got a job working with poor people who needed assistance with food, electricity, or gas to heat or cool homes. I was very good at my job. I had empathy, sympathy, and knowledge of where to find resources. I learned a lot about myself and the people I was helping to survive. my expertise working with poor people was growing. During this time, I worked at Legal Services of North Carolina. My job was to help poor people from who lived far away from the centers of power to become organizers and leaders in their rural communities. This was a daunting task. There are two projects that I completed that are good examples of helping oneself and community, and they are community vegetable gardens and a drama ministry. One of the characteristics of many rural poor people was a feeling of worthlessness and the belief that they were the cause of their own poverty. I introduced some of these women to the concept that help people love themselves, to have great expectations. Soon after building some self esteem, these women were learning about legislation, rules, and regulations to make the programs work better for their families. The women helped organize bus trips to Washington, D.C. to speak directly to their representatives about their needs. And lastly, they were taught how to advocate for themselves. Well, thank you for your attention to this presentation, and I hope that you have some questions that I will be happy to answer. And thank you very, very much.
All right, so thank you everyone for your patience. So now we're going to move on to our second panel. And the three women that are going to talk to us today are going to talk about special topics that they work on or have been working on. One is going to be on immigration, another on the preservation of generational wealth, and then the other on tribal federal relationships. So to start us off on the second panel, I'm going to turn it over to Leticia Carreón, who's going to talk to us about immigration. Leticia, if you can hear me, please go ahead.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Okay, I want you all to picture me. Okay, I'm wearing, and I made sure that I would wear something very St. Patrick's Day. I even have the clover with me, So, and unfortunately, maybe it's because of my vanity, the Lord is giving me a lesson in humility. So y'all are just gonna have to picture me, and with my picture like this, although my sister did not like it, she said my hair is not as white like that. She says it's beautiful and it has highlights. I still have some green, so I think it was the sun, the way what the picture was taken. But I'm so honored to be here with you, and it really is an honor to be once again to be here to participate in the CSW in RDLN on this topic that is so close to me. And I joined RDLN. I was a member of the first group to attend the institute in Davis, California. I'm going to say that I grew up in very poor, very poor. I grew up very poor. I had said dire poverty in Mexico. And at the age of 15, okay, well, I'll just say a little bit more on myself. Can you please back the slide, Pam? Okay, my experience. I had worked for the National Institute for Multicultural Education. And I worked in the Women's Beam Project in Denver, Colorado, with disadvantaged women, women that didn't have the slightest idea of how to hold a job. They were in domestic violence, prostitution, and really disadvantaged conditions. Then I worked at the Housing Assistance Council, which sponsored me for the RDLN study and field project programs in 1985. And No, I think it was in 84. Okay, well, anyway, and then I've done paralegal work, and right now I have retired from the Bernalillo County in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm an entrepreneur. I have an Airbnb business, and that's my passion and motivation. And also, my involvement with immigration through an organization called Encuentro and RDLN. It's very important to me. Okay, so I am the fifth of 16 pregnancies born in rural Mexico. When I was 15 years old, I was forced to leave my loving treasure, which is my family, and to go to the United States with my 3-year-old brother. And we were looking for a better opportunity. I had graduated in Mexico as an private accountant and secretary. So I thought I was on top of the world, you know. And then my mother said no, because we lived in a rural area, we'd always have to be separated. So she planned that we come to the United States where I had already some family. So when I was writing this, my personal experience, I actually felt it and I wrote it down. Yes, tears rolled down my cheek as I remember the heartbrokenness, yet the excitement to follow the path of my older siblings who were here, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. And in Mexico, we don't say go to the United States. We say, I'm going to the other side because it's just on the other side of the river. So I came to the border. My father brought me to the border city, which is a border town with El Paso, Texas. And the other side is Ciudad Juarez. And then my uncle carried me in his arms and he crossed across the river and into my aunt who lived on the El Paso side. But it was a cultural shock for me and I didn't like it. So my family could not handle this rebellious, unruly teenager. And my brother, who was also undocumented, is very important to say that because he took the risk to taking me back and said to my mom, here she is, we cannot handle her anymore. We don't want her back. And I was like so happy. But then when my mother again said, you're going to have to go back. So I came back and I punished my mother actually for 4 years. I did not go see her because she had the audacity to send me again. And this time I came with one of my sisters who had gone back and she had a baby. And so it was my sister and her baby, but she and I were the only ones because the water was too deep. My uncle crossed us through something called the Black Bridge. And the Black Bridge is when they open the gates for the trains to cross between the United States and Mexico. And people run after being through so many obstacles and dangers to get there. You run to try to beat the time so that before they close the doors. So we did that. And then my uncle said, look, there's a church. We're going to go over there. So we went to the church and it was like dawn, like maybe 4 or 5 in the morning. And we just stood there hiding from immigration because we had just crossed. And in El Paso, being a border town, a border city, immigration, it was very vigilant, especially around those areas. So we were hiding there when the doors opened to the church. The priest had seen us. They probably do that every day, I don't know, for people like us. And we went in, and then we just stayed there and called my aunt lived in El Paso, and she walked in. And we were, of course, praying. When I heard this laugh, like so hard. She was laughing, and she says, "I knew I would find you guys kneeling down praying," because she knew that that we were scared. And so I know firsthand the pain, the tears, and the dangers that someone endures leaving what is familiar, loved, and cherished to come to the U.S. in search of opportunities to be able to provide the basic needs of their families. You know, when I was writing it and I started crying, just the thought came to my mind when I told her when we had to leave. And she went through a depression. She had to carry now. If I had stayed there, I would have helped her with the housework and managed the kids and that. But she took that upon herself so that we could have a better life in the United States, looking for better opportunities. And I had family, like I said, to help me through this ordeal, and it was and is still traumatic. I can just imagine those people who do not have anybody to help them. One of my classmates told me just a couple of days ago that he had to go through a huge mountain. He walked for days and nights, and finally the soles of his boots were down and fell, and he had to work barefoot and bleeding. So, and the picture here, it's me and my sister. This is a recent picture about a couple of years ago. This actually is very symbolic because this is where she and I were baptized. It's not in my hometown, but it's in the county city, the county town where we belong. But she's the one who crossed through the Black Bridge with me. Okay, so I wanted to find a statistic that would show something recent, and it was hard. But here we have this chart, and we can see that in 25 it was when it peaked, the illegal immigration, and it increased to record high during the COVID years. But then it went down in January 26 to 6,070. And on December of 23, it was 249,740 the attempted illegal border crossings. So it has gone down a lot. And considering that there's 4.3 million undocumented Mexican immigrants living in the United States, which account for 30% of the total undocumented population in the United States, I believe that the government should offer an immigration reform that is fair and attainable with a path to legal status and citizenship. In 1987, during the Reagan administration, he offered an amnesty. When they told him, what are you going to do with so many undocumented? He said, document them. And so if you were a good moral character and you had been here, I believe it was since 1980, you could prove it. You could apply, and then they would give you a legal status and to path to citizenship. And there was one, and then there was another one that it was, I think if you had been here since the 1970, which is how most of my brothers and sisters were legalized, that was different. On that one, you became a resident immediately. You didn't have to wait to apply, continue applying. And I would like something like that because people say, well, why don't you come on the right way, the legal way? It's because it's not achievable. For example, my sister, I came in 1973. In 1973, I did not become a legal resident until 1983. My sister had put in for me. I was for 10 years undocumented, and I did not get legalized until 84 because I got married. If I had not gotten married, the waiting period time for a sister or brother is the fifth preference is 20 years. If you have a baby in the United States, that baby, in order to petition for you, you have to wait until the child is older, until the child is 21. So all those years, you are undocumented. If you get married to a citizen, or you're applying, you're requesting your minor child or your parents, that those are much quicker. Okay, but I would really like to see, because there's a lot of people. You first of all, you have to have a family member, and that's very. Some people do not have someone that can petition them. Okay, thank you. Next. Okay. So an immigration reform offering legal status to immigrant, any immigrant, I believe, can significantly benefit the U.S. by enhancing the economic growth, tax revenues, and improving the social integration. The United States benefits also from undocumented workers, because they do pay taxes and they don't claim income tax. They also contribute to the Social Security and they don't claim it. So, in addition to all of these benefits, economic benefits, it could also enhance work stability, reduce exploitation and labor abuses, and increase consumer spending and strengthen the national security, because then everybody would know where everybody is. People would not be afraid to divulge their information. And I have heard, like, a lot of Mexican people work in construction or in agriculture, and those are tasks, those are jobs that people in the United States do not want to do. And they are very hard workers. I have heard it. They're the best roofers, the best cement layers, and picking the agriculture. And they're very grateful to be able to work and provide for their families. When I was little, my father was involved in a program. It was called Bracero. Bracero comes from the word brazos, which means arms. And they offered him an opportunity to come to the United States on a permit, which was, I thought it was phenomenal. That was really good. And to reduce exploitation. And after the permit was over, for the length of time that they needed them, they would return back home. They would return them back home. Okay, and I'm involved with this Familia del Centro, and we work on different issues. Do you have the other slide, Pam?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. No, this is the last slide that I was able to add. You can maybe speak from the other one.
Okay, sure. Okay, with Encuentro, we have fought for, it's called HB 9, the Immigration Safety Act, which is already signed into law, which bans 287 agreements and immigrant detention contracts between counties and ICE, ensuring state and local resources protect families instead of separating them. The other one is called SB 40, the Driver Privacy and Safety Act, which decreases immigration arrests by limiting the use of automatic license plate readers for immigration enforcement and safeguarding personal driver information, because they were noticing that they were detaining a lot of immigrants, and it was because the Department of Motor Vehicle was providing information to ICE. The HB 124 is the Office of New Americans. It creates a permanent office of New Americans at the Department of workforce solutions to expand access to job training, workforce program, and economic opportunity for immigrant families. And the other one is called S 325 million. Sorry, 325 million for free high school equivalence exams and for New Mexico Ascent, which is a supplemental income pilot for New Mexicans in workforce development programs. This funding ensures more access to job training, credentialing programs, and workforce pathways for immigrant and low-wage workers. And last night, the city council met and they approved, it's called Safe Places, where it prohibits immigration, ICE, to go into public places such as churches, schools, hospitals, and like stores. And one of the reasons was, okay, we want the people to feel free to worship, to get spiritually fed without fear. The next one is, if somebody is carrying a communicable disease, we want them to get attention, medical attention, and we don't want them for fear to not go to the hospitals. The other one, another reason is to protect them, because some people are being, if they're being mistreated or in type of domestic violence or any other type of danger, we want them to feel free to speak up, go to the law. And so this is all I have, and I thank you all very much for choosing. I know you guys have a lot of choices, but for choosing to join this session. Appreciate it. And remember
Thank
me
you.
in my green outfit.
Thank you so much, Leticia, for your presentation and for sharing, your touching story and the recommendations that you have for current immigration reform. So at this time, we are going to switch our slides over to hear from Meredith, Coleman, McGee, and let me pull up that slide.
Okay. I'm going to share my slides. I'm Meredith Coleman McGee here in Jackson, Mississippi.
Are you sharing? Are you sharing the slides, or should I share them?
Oh, I'm sharing them.
Okay.
Can you see them?
Not yet. Let me make sure you have sharing ability.
Wait a minute.
It's very straight. Okay, there you go. Okay.
You can see them now?
They're coming up. Okay, so now we can see your desktop.
You can see the slides now?
Not the slides, but your desktop computer.
Hold on. Let me start over. Give me 1 second. Can you see them now?
We cannot, but I can share my slides if you want. They're not popping up.
Can you start talking about yourself, Meredith?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You have them up?
Yes, let me go ahead.
Okay. The title of my presentation is Preserving Generational Wealth and Intellectual Property via a Living Trust. And of course, I'm a rural fellow with the Rural Development Leadership Network. And our theme is empowering U.S. rural women, grassroots women leaders, perspectives, experiences, and approaches. And that's the title again. Welcome. I'm Meredith Coleman McGee. I'm a female entrepreneur and writer, a business consultant, 30 plus years of business experience. I'm an author, publisher, book collector, speaker, native of Los Angeles, California, raised in Jackson, Mississippi. Um, our roots, as far back as I can go on my mother's side, is 1848 in center, rural Atala County, Mississippi, which is the site of my next project, which I am working on, and I hope to start it in 5 years. And on my father's side, our roots go back to ball play, Etowah County, Alabama, and our ball play is where the Cherokees played baseball before their removal. And I want to say that I became familiar with the Rural Development Leadership Network in 1994 when I started working for the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, the Mississippi Association of Cooperatives, which worked with farm cooperatives. They still do. And that was my first time working in rural Mississippi at that time. And since then, I have worked in more than just Mississippi and rural areas. But now I'm based in an urban area. And I completed the institute in 1998, which was very significant to me because of the institute which we're recruiting for now is a month-long study it was then at UC Davis. And it was very hands-on. We had field projects. We toured like housing co-ops, farm workers who were actively working. And it was very hands-on. And we did academic studies as well through the Rural Development Department at UC Davis. The next slide. So I want to start with a definition. Generational wealth refers to financial assets passed from one generation of a family to another. These assets can be cash, stock, bonds, real estate, or family businesses. More definitions. Trust are estate planning tools that can help you manage or transfer wealth. Trusts provide control over how and when assets are distributed, protect estates from creditors, and minimize estate taxes. Intellectual property refers to creations of the mind, such as inventions, literary or artistic works, designs, and symbols, names, images used in commerce. And so, how did I start really trying to plan my death after I lost my husband in 2021 and my father in 2023? I started planning my death. At that time, I had a will, but I learned something different about death when I lost my husband and my father. And the three of us shared the same roof. And then I started thinking more that a will was not what I needed to preserve and transfer my wealth because I have intellectual property. I'm the author of 13 books. I own poems that are on T-shirts, which is considered intellectual property. And then I wanted to create the trust to teach. I am the administrator of the Living Trust, but to teach the two younger people that I selected in my family to carry it on upon my demise. So they have to learn a lot. We have to learn together. And I'm 62 years old. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are ways to transfer assets. Of course, I'm sure you've heard of people having handwritten wills, and I even heard of a famous case where someone had a handwritten will, and the children found it in a couch. One of the things that I've learned in my research is that even if you have a handwritten will, you need to present a copy of it to your beneficiaries. Then, if you have a typed will, it must be witnessed. It depends on your state by 3 or more people. It has to be dated and signed in the presence of a notary, and in the legal jargon, they call it executed. Then we have a revocable trust, and the administrator can change who the trustee is, and the beneficiaries can be changed. And that's what I have, revocable trust. Then you have irrevocable trust. The administrator cannot be revoked, even though you can change and add beneficiaries. And this is very important. A family limited partnership, which is managed by the family to control the assets, and it is the institution to transfer any wealth from one generation to the next. The family needs an institution, and we have an institution which is different from a family limited partnership. We have Heirs United Investment Club, which was founded in 1997, based on co-op principles: one person, one vote, annual meeting, which is very important, constant education, and financial training. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I wanted to mention some famous trusts in terms of how we look at trust. Um, and I also have a fact. According to research, 70% of families lose their wealth in the second generation. Second generation. And 90% lose their wealth by the third generation. That is really serious. So I just picked two main trusts. I picked John D. Rockefeller because I guess most people know about the Rockefellers. Anyway, he started his Standard Oil Trust in 1882. They had a family structure, regular meetings, clear goals, legal counsel, and knowledge empowers heirs to continue the legacy. And of course, they have really set a high bar in terms of transferring wealth from generation to generation to generation. And one of the things that I read that they actually do, their trust buys a life insurance, and this goes back for many, many years, for a key member of their family. And when that person dies, the trust splits the insurance with that family, and then part of it goes to the trust to fund the trust. And then we have Cornelius Vanderbilt. And of course, that's a very famous family as well. And according to the research, um, their transferring continuously was a little different. Cornelius was the wealthiest U.S. citizen in 1860. Okay, this is before the Civil War. And according to research, the Vanderbilt fortune was squandered, riddled with family discord, gambling, etc. Today, the Vanderbilt founded companies are not family owned, and today the wealthiest heir is an author. Now, challenges and outcomes, sensible wealth management and stewardship is very important. The family is advised to stick to the plan, increase revenues, minimize distribution, preserve funds, take care of property, assets, complete tax filings. Now, I wanted to just mention briefly the difference between my own living trust and these wealthier people. I never had a lawyer to create my living trust. I'm a former paralegal. I spent days reading. I wrote my own trust, and it was approved by the bank lawyers. And I still don't have a lawyer. So me and my designated beneficiary, one is my great niece. She's 19, and my cousin, who is 28. So we're going to have to do what co-ops did, constant education. And the one thing I want to say about our family meeting structure, we already have that. We started the Heirs United Investment Club 28 years ago, and my two elder uncles established how families should meet. We were never allowed to argue at family meetings, to have any backbiting, to have any fussing. If your meeting was declined, you just had to wait to the next annual meeting and hope that your ideal would go forward. And if it didn't, too bad. It was no backbiting, no fussing, no discord, which was what I learned about the Vanderbilts. And I thought, wow, we did have one thing going. Next slide, please. Oh, this is the final slide, I believe. Anyway, I did a little more research, and I looked at Andrew Carnegie, um, and I thought that was just a wonderful example because Carnegie Hall opened its doors in 1891, and so that's what my goal. I would hope that my assets would be managed properly and stay in the family a century. And today, concert seats for Carnegie Hall range from $90 to $600. Then I looked at Tupac Shakur because he owns intellectual property, music, his face, his lyrics on T-shirts and quotes on T-shirts, and now his assets are actually managed by a professional management firm. And then I looked at Biggie Smalls. These are two famous rappers who died young. His mother took the hymns of his estate after he died and grew it. Then his widow, Faith Evans, started helping to manage it, and they still do. And his minor child, she became an administrator when she turned 22, which was not that long ago. So
Miss
their
Meredith.
assets is family run. Yes.
Sorry, I'm raising my hand. I'm so sorry. We have almost run out of time. And I
Oh,
know
we
all of
have.
us went over, yes. So do you mind just concluding and then we'll move over to
Yes. And
okay.
Nipsey Hussle's assets are ran by his brother, and he has increased them. And I looked at Ray Charles, and he has 12 children, and his net worth now, he established a record company in 62, is $105 million net worth, and that concludes mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Meredith. This topic of wills and transferring assets to heirs is not an easy topic to always have, but it's very necessary. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
So now we're going to turn over to our last panelist, which is Twila Martin Kekahbah, and she's going to talk to us about tribal federal relationships, its influence on the tribal government structure. So Twila, please go ahead.
Afternoon, everyone. I apologize if my throat's a bit scratchy from allergies. But anyway, I am a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. I live here on my reservation in North Dakota. I'm the seventh child of 11 children that my mom and dad had, plus they raised a number of other children. I grew up on this reservation. It was a very happy time. It was not until I went into Vista did I learn that I came from an economic poverty area. But it never bothered me, simply because North Dakota is such a beautiful place, but nothing can compare to my reservation. Right now, it's so beautiful outside. The light is shining. Snow has fallen this morning. It's about 16 above, but beautiful all the same. When I joined Vista, my dad did something. He gave me some black dirt, and he said, taste this and remember always where your home is. So when I left home and got my degree, I also received a Kellogg Fellowship to look at developing countries, which I compared to American Indian reservations. And in 1988, I decided I needed to return home and give back to my tribe. With the support of my husband and my children, that's what I did. So I ran for office in 1988, and I was the first female to be elected and seated for 3 different terms. And the reason my presentation is based on tribal government structure is that I was not prepared to be the tribal chairperson. I felt that just being a person who had grown up here, knew the work ethic of our people, understood the needs, the desires, and the love of our tribe, that would be enough. But I was sadly mistaken, because in order to understand the complexity of present-day government, one must recognize the historical, political, legal, formal, and informal structure of American Indian tribes. And with that in mind, I am going to talk about my hope to see other young leaders join in and know more about what is necessary to lead your tribe. Next slide. So the topic is tribal federal relationships, its influence on tribal government structure. Next topic. The concept of the tribal federal relationship is the linchpin that affects American Indian tribes and the federal government in their governmental connection. Next slide. American Indian tribes are distinct political entities under the United States Constitution as determined by Article 1, the Commerce Clause, and Article 6, treaties. Next slide. American Indian policy today and historically is often contradictory. Example, the legislative, executive, and judicial decisions that are in opposition. In the last 2 centuries, the Congress has passed more federal laws dealing with Indian tribes and Alaska Natives than any other group of people in the United States. Even though the Indian Self-Determination and Education Act of 1975 was enacted, it still required some decision-making on the tribes to accept it. Next slide. Nothing can be boiled down into black and white relationships. There is a continuous push-pull between those who have the authority to dictate Indian policy, friction between the tribes and federal agencies, Congress, and the judicial system, such as the U.S. Constitution versus the Code of Federal Regulations. Next slide. The Code of Federal Regulations is a codification of the permanent rules published in the Federal Register by the executive departments and agencies of the federal government. The code is divided into 50 titles. 50 titles. Remember that. And one of those titles is Title 25, addressing American Indians. Next slide. CFR 25 contains federal regulations governing Indian affairs in the U.S., including self-governance, which empowers the tribe to define their tribal sovereignty, determine membership, administer justice, exclude persons from the reservations, charter tribal businesses, collect, maintain, and own research data, and other powers necessary as a sovereign nation. Likewise, a reservation is defined as the jurisdictional territory of the tribe. Next slide. States interact with tribes on a government-to-government basis. As a result, states have no authority over tribal governments or tribal land unless authorized by Congress. Therefore, both a state and a tribe can pass a law such as stand your ground. It's interesting that there are many American Indian reservations which are located in states that have a stand your ground law. Keep that in mind. A stand your ground law for a state, but not necessarily for an American Indian reservation. Next slide. A tribe can pass its own self-defense laws, but generally this applies only to tribes who have criminal jurisdiction. Because tribes are considered domestic dependent nations, their ability to enforce such laws is shaped by a complex web of state and federal rules. For example, under Violence Against Women Act, some tribes can prosecute non-Indians for specific crimes like domestic violence. In those cases, the tribe's self-defense rules would apply. Unfortunately, those nations may not have codified their laws to include self-defense laws. So it's necessary for tribes to review their codified laws and act upon attempted as to how they're going to protect their people. The next slide. Conclusion. American Indians are very diverse in preserving and promoting their history, traditions, and cultural knowledge. Despite their diversity, it is imperative that interaction conducted with American Indian tribes include understanding and appreciating the legal and political relationship between tribes and the federal government. Think of this relationship as a nation within a nation. Next slide. All decisions of the tribe comes down to its sovereignty and reservation governmental structure. Every decision by the tribal government is connected to the existence of the government to government relationship, which is rooted in the US Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, which established tribal nationhood, and in Article 6, which refers to treaties by the United States and American Indian tribes. Understanding, recognizing, and strengthening tribal sovereignty and self-determination is essential to the long-term traditional and cultural survival of tribes. In today's times, we need strong and effective tribal governments to address the economic spam all the time. So you can't get away from it. To address the effective tribal governments, the economic, health, educational, social, and other concerns of their tribal citizens living on or near their reservation homelands. And I apologize. I did have my phone off. I took the ringer off, but apparently I must have turned it back on when I was checking the time. So with that, thank you all for listening in. And thank you, Pamela, and the rest of the panelists for what you have contributed. I appreciate everything that was said, and I've learned as usual. Thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you so much, Ms. Twila. I'm so sorry that you had to be rushed at the end. I want to thank all of our panelists for taking the time out to prepare your presentations and for sharing the information that you shared with us. We are a little bit over time, so thank you to everyone that has joined our panel today. We are really touched and blessed to have had you join us. If you would like to stay connected with the Rural Development Leadership Network, you can reach us on our email at rdln@ruraldevelopment.org. And as I shared earlier on in the beginning, the Rural Development Leadership Network is currently recruiting emerging rural leaders who work in community development and who are interested or may be interested in earning a degree or a certificate in community development. So we plan to have an information session on March the 24th, where I will go into more detail about the Institute and the program. We'll talk about tuition and fundraising and different aspects of our Institute. So you heard Meredith mention her experience, and all the leaders here have been participants of our Institute. And so we're really looking forward to having our 13th cohort. We've had our Institute since 1985. We've graduated over 78 rural leaders from across the US who are now doing different leadership programs. And our Institute, in our Institute, we help you develop a field project in your community, a community development project. And so there's a lot to share, and unfortunately we've run out of time. So please join us on March the 24th, where we'll go into more detail. And also, if you do want to apply, if you go on our website and you feel like you have seen enough information, we also have the QR code to our application. So once again, on behalf of the Rural Development Leadership Network, we want to thank you. If anyone wants to stay back to ask any burning questions, we on the panel, I think we can stay on for a few minutes. So I'll open it up for questions now. If anyone has a burning question, please go ahead and ask.
I think there was a question while I was doing a presentation, and I apologize, I was not looking at the chat during the time, but I was asked what was the I think the question was specifically saying what is the most prevalent need at the moment for women farm workers? You know, there's been so many different things that have been happening lately. There's so, just I just want to say that because of what's going on with ICE, we have had women that have because they have to flee or they have to run or things have to be happening at the time. If ICE approaches or whatsoever, some of them have lost their pregnancies. Others, there's many families that have been divided in terms of some of them have been sent a place and some of others, and they're not even being sent to their national, to their country. There are many different things happening. And so what we're trying to do is the rapid response of giving people information about what are their rights, because people have rights right now, even though it doesn't look like that people do have rights. And we're doing webinars and we're doing local, responses and trying to find families and finding, just different things. And I don't want to take too much of the time explaining, but there's a lot of things that have been there. We also have in our website, we also have links of stories or presentations that we have done. So if you want to look at that, thank you.
Thank you, Mily.
Mily, I did have one question to ask you. I was trying to see, out of all of the women that you work with, what percent of them are still working in the field, or do they have other kinds of jobs now?
Oh, the majority of the women are still working in the fields, and a lot of them are becoming small farmers because that's part of what we've been trying to do with the Proyecto Madre Tierra, the Mother Earth Project, in terms of their growing organic. And because they already have their family gardens, or we call them family small farms, or community farms, and they're supporting each other. The majority of the time, it's about them. It's to support their family, but also to give out to other people that are in need. So, but the majority of the women are still working in the fields. That doesn't mean that they're not in fear. To the contrary, there's a lot of fear still.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Any burning questions?
Can I say something that I did not say?
Sure.
Because I was part of one of the groups from RDLN, it took me some time to finish my own school with traditional institution, which I got my AA with distinction, and I got my BA with distinction also. And I was always trying to get awards so I could get scholarships. And when they would not want to give me an award, I would go and question, why are you not giving me an award? Because of all the things that we were doing together, in terms of the community whatsoever. And sometimes they would end up, and I'm talking about the deans or the presidents. This is right now it's laughable, but during that time, I was concerned. I needed to get awards so I could get scholarships. That's what's so important. But I was able to get my master's with the support of RDLN in 2014. That was what 20 years later, you know. But it because I went through this other and doing the kind of work we do, it's very hard to do both things at the same time, and having your family too. So anyway. Yeah.
Is anyone that's
sometimes?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Me, it's a never-ending story.
I was just going to ask, was there anyone that's still online that's interested in learning a little bit more about the Institute? Did you hang around to hear about that? And if you did, I'm available to meet with you. You can contact me by email. Right? Well, I don't hear anyone.
If you're not doing the Institute directly, if you know colleagues or you know people or you want to support people, hey, let them know, because believe me, I went through so much of a difference in terms of being involved with communities from all sorts, backgrounds. And that got me to, you don't usually say you're get out of the box in our communities, but I did got out of the box because I was involved with communities, um, Native Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, and Latinos from different countries. And like, oh yeah, that's right. We're not the only ones that are going through stuff. Let's also, learn from each other. So that was it was an amazing journey doing this fellowship. Yeah.
And Pamela?
Yes.
I forgot to mention, I believe that one of the great opportunities that came out of the federal tribal relationship is that of the development of our tribal colleges. From there, a number of our people can learn how to be good leaders. Not that they weren't good leaders in the past, they all were. They just didn't have the same mechanisms to fight the federal government, state governments, as they do now with the educational backgrounds, whether it be legal, medical, or any type of background. Being a political entity is very important. That means that we're just not racial, but we're political. And no one can take that away from us, except the possibility of maybe our people being too generous in the immigration laws way back when they should have been a bit strict.
But Twila,
and you wouldn't have to worry.
Can I ask you something? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Was someone else?
You can go
Twila.
ahead. Yeah, Twila said first.
Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned the word and I wrote it down, domestic dependent nation. So in other words, the tribal nation has to share authority with the United States?
Well, what that means basically, Meredith, is that because of our relationship and how it was set up, keeping in mind that land was taken and a lot of genocide took place. Mm-hmm. And so when the US Constitution was formed, there were still tribal governments and people in leadership positions. Therefore, when the reference to domestic nations came about, is because Congress still has plenary power over the tribes. That's why there's that executive, legislative, and federal push and pull that continues on, continues all the time. It's a very complex, it's not an easy path to be a tribal person, nor to be a tribal leader. And I commend those that take the stance and run for positions such as this. And I'm hoping, again, as I've noted, that many more of our young leaders, particularly our women, get involved.
And I had another question. I'm doing your presentation, Twila. You mentioned stand your ground. you all won't stand your ground. And for me as a Black woman, stand your ground was we lost Trayvon Martin to we felt that he was unjustifiably murdered because of the stand your ground law in Florida. He was just a kid with a sneakers in his pocket or whatever, walking, and the white man had a tussle with him and killed him and was never convicted for doing it because of the stand your ground. And I was trying to see how do you think stand your ground would benefit your tribe?
Well, fortunately, my tribe does have codification of the law under self-defense, but many tribes don't. So, for an example, in the state of North Dakota, if an American Indian went up to a farmhouse in, we'll say, a non-tribal area to knock on the door and ask for directions or anything, the person who opens the door can see that it's an American Indian and say they feel threatened or believe they feel threatened by that person, and thereby they can shoot them or whatever. And so on the stand your ground, if a tribe does not have the self-defense laws in place, which they can put in place, however, even those laws must be approved under the code, the federal CFR 25. So, as I said earlier, my tribe does have self-defense laws, and in the Domestic Violence Act, if someone abuses a female here, our tribe has the legal ability to take them into tribal court. On the other hand, if it's a non-Indian, then they go to federal court. So it's,
oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying it's very, very complex, and to try to put it into 9 slides or 12 slides makes it almost impossible to describe.
Oh, Twila. So in other words, you're trying to incorporate self-defense into your policies for the tribe to protect Indian life, just like we want to protect Black life from the stand your ground. Because it's being used to justify taking Indian life, like it was used to take Trayvon Martin. Is that what you're saying?
That's absolutely correct, Meredith. When I was looking up how many states had stand your ground, it was amazing because the majority of our states do. However, the tribal nations within those states don't have any self-defense laws at all. So they're open to the mercy of whom, however, the Code of Federal Regulation deals with them. And keeping in mind, each tribe is different. Each tribe has their own set of laws, their own constitutions, and their own way of dealing with tribal membership. For the most part, as I said before, under the CFR 25, you cannot prosecute a non-Indian in tribal court.
Thank you, Twila.
You're welcome. I learned a lot from you.
We should definitely have a separate session to learn more about this topic, Twila. And like you said, 7 slides in 7 minutes was just not enough time. So,
thank you so much for everybody. Even you're still here.
Exactly.
Yes.
I was just happy to see the many people that joined, and I think we had a very rich discussion and conversation. And next year we said we'll be in person, right? So Mily, the board members were they? Twila, Mily.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get us there.
Yes.
So thank you everyone for joining today, and have a good, safe rest of your afternoon. And for those of you, I think most people here seem to be joining in from the CSW forum. There are ongoing sessions going on the rest of the week. So if you just Google CSW 70, you can still register until Thursday. So
Thank you
thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
God
Have
bless